Welcome to the Sports Angle, live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. I'm your host, Rachiele. Let's get into it. My guest at this time, Blaze Thunder. Welcome to the Sports Angle. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm not too far down the road. I'm in San Diego, California, so I'll have to make that trip to Vegas this year for the Bengals versus Oakland, or the Vegas Raiders, excuse me.
Hey, I'm still calling them Oakland. I mean, it's just force of habit. So.
Definitely.
Now, in the NFL, obviously the biggest story that has broke over the last month and a half is the Aaron Rodgers situation. Is he going to play for them? Is he not going to play for them? Him holding out, him going to Disneyland, him, going on all these trips and all these vacations. Do you believe that the media is putting too much stock into him holding out and missing camp? Do you believe that it's a possibility that the media is just trying to get all these clicks and all these, ratings and views by over-exaggerating what's going on? Or do you think that they're more accurate with the situation?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think he's definitely disgruntled. I would be disgruntled too if I was coming off an AFC championship and we're trying to build for now and you're building for the future. So for the Packers organization, I can understand where you're coming from. You've done it before with drafting Aaron Rodgers to succeed Brett Favre. But at the same time, you have to take care of your once-in-a-generation quarterback, and that's what I'm going to call Aaron Rodgers, a once-in-a-generation quarterback, because I truly believe that. I always knew he was a great quarterback, but then when I looked at his stats today, his career stats, the 412 touchdowns, 89 interceptions, I didn't know he was that good of a quarterback, and that kind of shocked me when I saw those. But at the same time, with that being said, I think it is getting blown out of proportion. Matt LaFleur is a good head coach. I think they're building with the future by drafting Love. I didn't agree with it, but I also think those guys have a good relationship. I think that Aaron has one foot out the door, but I don't think it's so cut and dry final as the media is making it seem.
As we are talking about the NFL here on Sports Angle, I'm your host, Rocco. We're here with Blaze. Now, Aaron Rodgers, I understand he is disgruntled, and I get it from that aspect. But here's the argument I've always made. What could the Packers really do, understanding the circumstances, that first off, they are considered a small market team. I mean, Green Bay is one of the smallest markets in the entire NFL when it comes to size, population, even when it comes to the salary situation. The Packers normally aren't the teams that are spending the big bucks every single offseason. So I've talked to Packers fans, I've talked to NFL fans about this. What could they really do to help Aaron Rodgers out? Offensively, they do have good talent. I mean, they have one of the top 5 wide receivers in Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones is a really credible running back, and their offensive line has normally been built to succeed. So is it the defense that he's talking about? Is it, the defense that he wants upgraded? Is it a certain position that we are just unaware of that he really wants fixed? What could they really do to help Aaron Rodgers go from here to here?
I think it all comes down to that the draft last year. You had just made an AFC championship game. We should be thinking, in my opinion, of pieces to win a championship this year. Of course, the Packers are a great organization. I will not knock them, not say anything bad about the way they run things, because it was successful one time around by doing it with the Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers saga. But I feel that when the window is now, maybe another receiver. I have a couple names down. When they drafted Love, I'm not big on Jordan Love. I never was big on Jordan Love. So when they took him, I was a little bit surprised there. I understand the potential and all that, but guys like Laviska Shenault were there. I really liked him. T. Higgins, who eventually went to my Bengals. Thank you for not taking him. Packers.
And then also wide receiver come out of Clemson. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've just been reading an article right now saying he's bigger, stronger, coming back better this year. And then also another name was Michael Pittman Jr. I really like Pittman Jr. out of USC. He's an underrated guy that I think is going to do big things in Indianapolis this year. But just I think something like that, maybe grabbing a receiver. And then the second thing was Dillon. A.J. Dillon was a beast. I always loved that guy coming out of college. But you already had 2 running backs. And so you're essentially drafting pieces for the future. Like, what does that do for me this year? The defense, they built it by getting the Smith brothers. They had the championship roster, so I don't think it was really the defense, the cornerbacks. I mean, they're two first-round guys, and Kevin King and Jair Alexander. King has not lived up to potential. Maybe you could have added there, which is what they did this year with the Stokes pick, which I didn't like. But these are all my preferences, so I'm not the one running the organization. But I think that a receiver over quarterback last year was a big thing. No matter how good you are, Aaron Rodgers, and people are going to say that you shouldn't feel threatened, that they're taking a quarterback in the first round. But it's going to kind of upset me a little bit if I'm the quarterback and you're taking same guy at my position when I still have a lot of juice in the tank. I think he was 35. Tom Brady's 43, and that's what I'm going to put the example to. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm 35. I'm seeing that 43-year-old go out there and still balling out. I'm like, oh, you guys just maybe don't believe in me anymore. Maybe you guys are ready to replace me. That's my first thoughts, no matter how good I am.
I mean, a lot of people forget that there's only a 6-year gap between Brady and Rodgers. I mean, it's not like, oh, Rodgers is from 2002 and Brady's from 2000. There is a bit of a gap there. When the trade situation was going down, we heard about from Adam Schefter, we heard from all the big networks, oh, Aaron Rodgers wants to get traded. Oh, he wants to be on the West Coast, which knocked out about, 20 teams in the NFL when it was reported that he wanted to go be closer to home. Now, I don't believe he is going to be traded. Personally, I don't think that a team is going to be willing to spend that capital to acquire him. And B, I believe this is a game of chicken. I believe this is, a game of, I'm going to call your bluff. You're going to call my bluff. And then in about a month and a half, I'll see you on the field. If a trade did happen, would it be Denver? Would it be Seattle, San Francisco? We even heard potentially LA with the Justin Herbert situation, which would be crazy, by the way. But which team would be the odds-on favorite to get Aaron Rodgers if it had to happen?
I think the odds-on favorite already passed, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. I think they would have gave you the most. It's Aaron Rodgers' childhood team he loved growing up. But from the Packers standpoint, why would I want to trade him to San Francisco? Why would I want to trade him to NFC number one? And why would I want to trade him to a rival who gets Aaron Rodgers? San Francisco gets to Aaron Rodgers, and they're Super Bowl contenders. I mean, they're not far off where they're at right now. I don't see a lot of other places making sense. Vegas, I mean, of course, Gruden would love to have Aaron Rodgers. I just don't see it. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how the Carr contract is structured, but you got to offload that contract. Don't see that happening. Green Bay is definitely not going to want that contract. I'm trying to think some other teams.
Arizona, maybe a swap with Kyle Murray.
Arizona, I think I'm not a Kingsbury fan. I think that they're going to underperform this year, and his job could be on the line. But I don't like that Arizona move. I don't think he'd want to go to Carolina. I think
there was the speculated Justin Herbert thing I mentioned a couple of seconds ago. I mean, it'd be crazy, wouldn't it, to trade the offensive rookie of the year the season after he won it to Green Bay?
And I'll tell you one thing right now. If I'm the Los Angeles Chargers, I would make that swap right now. And that's, you can look at Herbert and see all that potential. And he did this last year. I'm a Herbert fan. I'm not a Herbert believer yet, because the thing that separated him and Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow performs in big games. And last year, he kind of, in my opinion, Herbert had no crowds. So he's kind of in his comfort zone. So when the crowds come and the pressure's on and now you're expected to win, you're expected to put up numbers, I don't think that he's going to deliver the way he did last year. Not saying he's going to be bad. I just don't think he's going to deliver the way people expect. So I would make that trade. If I was the Chargers, I'd be like, all right, yeah, give us Aaron and maybe some picks.
And then the blockbuster trade that for some reason was my angle. Like when it first broke, I said, this is what should happen. Call up the Seattle Seahawks and do a blockbuster trade we have not seen in decades. You take a Super Bowl winning quarterback, you pretty much swap them for each other.
And that would be a good, interesting storyline too, with Wilson going back to Wisconsin. That'd be pretty interesting. That'd be pretty cool. I would like that. Yeah, and I think, Russell's having some disgruntledness up there in Seattle too. So that'd be pretty interesting. That would be interesting. I never even thought about that one. I didn't see when you said that. So I have to go back and look at that.
Now, as we're talking about the NFL here on the Sports Angle, I'm your host, Rocco. We're here with Blaze. Now, Julio Jones, when the whole trade conversation came up, there were so many people pointing at the Packers. When Odell Beckham has been rumored to get traded, they always say, oh, he should go to Green Bay. He should go to the Packers. And once again, I feel like the people who are saying this don't quite understand how much of a small market the Green Bay Packers really are. Like they make normally one big move every decade. Like in the 90s, they went out and got Reggie White. That was their one really big move in that decade. In the 2000s, they went out and got Charles Woodson. That was their one big move they made at the time. In the 2010s, they went out and got, a running back from Seattle. I keep forgetting his name, but it'll come back to me in a second. So the Green Bay Packers normally make that one big move every single year, every single decade. So I just keep telling people the reason why Julio wasn't going to go there, because that's not how Green Bay operates. Odell's not going to go there because that's not how Green Bay operates. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I 100% agree. And it just goes back to show you, there's debate out there. What's the most important position in football? It goes back to the quarterback. Green Bay has been blessed with great quarterback play over the last 2 decades. And so they were able to build around the quarterbacks through the draft. And that's how they build, is through the draft. And I understand. And they made some splashes. Was it 2019 when they got the Smith brothers? Those were 2 big splashes.
Oh, that was who I was thinking of. Yeah, Smith.
Yeah, so those are some big splashes they've already made. But with the Julio thing, I was one of those guys. I didn't look at the cap or anything. I was like, they need, they messed up with their wife. They need to go get Julio, which would be like, big shiny ring or earrings. They needed to make it up to Aaron Rodgers. But at the end of the day, once I came to my senses, I realized that wasn't going to happen. And I think that Julio went to the best situation possible for him and the best possible situation for the team to get Julio.
Now, we're going to be going to break here on the Sports Angle in just a bit. But final question for the segment. Mm-hmm. The Aaron Rodgers situation, we understand how great he is as a quarterback. But I've always wondered when it comes to the all-time argument, is he top 10? Is he top 5? Is he top 15, top 20? Like, where would you personally, Blaze, put Aaron Rodgers when it comes to, like, all-time quarterbacks on that list?
Oh, man, I would have to, sit down and write all the quarterbacks down. And, it'd be a real big debate I'd have to go through in my head. But just off of the top of my head, I would definitely have to put him in the top 15 and probably closer to the top 10 because – like I said, he's got the Super Bowl. I mean, I think to be in my top 10, you definitely got to have a Super Bowl. Actually, that's not true, but it does help. And then after seeing the stats and then the fact that he sat for 3 years and the stats are the way they are, it's unbelievable.
Incredible.
Yeah. So I would probably say top 10 for sure.
Now, when we did this show back in August, when this NFL season was about to kick off, I did my personal top 10 list. And I had Aaron Rodgers at number 10. However, he had just won an MVP. He had been doing all these things in 2020. So when we go to August this year and I do this list again as part of my annual tradition, I will obviously have to figure out and make real calculated decisions on where I put Aaron Rodgers on that list. So this is the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rocco. We're here with Blaze. We're going to go to break. And when we come back, we'll continue with our NFL conversation. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Sports Angle, live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. I'm your host, Rachiele. Let's get back into it. Go to our website, thesportsangle.com. Check out all the articles we have on there. I just posted an article on the website tonight, so go check that out on thesportsangle.com. We are going to continue our NFL conversation here with Blaze. The Cincinnati Bengals. I know that's your team.
That's
Joe
my
Burrow.
team.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, man. I'm in the minority here. I believe the Cincinnati Bengals aren't going to have a breakout year in 2021. I've been telling everybody that I know that I trust Joe Burrow. Yes, year one, it was a terrible injury. Very unfortunate what happened to Joe Burrow. And I know all the spotlights on Justin Herbert right now. Jordan Love has a spotlight attached to him because of the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. And then you have the whole rookie class. But for some reason, it feels like the NFL is kind of just not focusing on the guy who was the man a year ago. Do you think that's an accurate statement? That they're pretty much just sweeping Joe Burrow under the rug in the NFL right now?
Definitely. The narrative that the national media is going to put out there is the injury. And I mean, it's true. The offensive line was not up to par last year. The offensive line coach we had last year was definitely not up to par. And I mean, so you can kind of foresee it. People were saying Joe Burrow was going to get hurt. And then when it happened, it's like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. That's the narrative. But the reality is you can't predict injuries. And Joe Burrow's a tough guy. He could take the hits. It was the hit that hurt him was he was going back. His leg was straight. And, you know, it's a freak thing to happen. So.
Right. Like it's like a circumstantial kind of thing. I mean,
definitely.
It's a bang, bang play. So year two for Joe Burrow. And there's been two types of ways quarterbacks go. You either have the sophomore slump where you regress and you show, that you still have errors in your armor, still have stuff you need to fix. But in the past 5 years, we have seen sophomore success. We saw it with Kyler Murray, Josh Allen. You saw it with Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. I could keep going on and on. But the last 5 years has really shown that a sophomore year can elevate you from 1 to 2. You believe Joe Burrow is going to have the same thing, considering all the talent he has on offense? Offensive line, it seems like they at least put some attempt into building that offensive line back up. And their running game, they still have that situation up there. So at Cincinnati, will he improve in year two, Joe Burrow?
That is absolutely. And let's go back to last year. But let's say that Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt. Justin Herbert still wins that award. So that's not taking away anything from Justin Herbert. But I'm going to tell you very, very firmly, Joe Burrow is better than Justin Herbert. And the stats won't tell you that last year. But going back to college, going back to mindset, going back to the work that they're going to put in, not saying that Herbert doesn't work hard, but Joe Burrow is coming back from this injury, and he's working harder than ever. I'm seeing reports out there that, him and his buddy Chase are staying after practice. They're putting in the extra work. The guys around him, T. Higgins has put in extra work. Guys in the offensive line have put in extra work, coming in back in better shape. So he is firing everybody up. It's not just Joe Burrow from a physical or skill standpoint. It's a mindset that he's bringing to the team. And one of Cincinnati fans, not me, but one of Cincinnati fans' biggest issues is they don't believe in the team. When things get close, they're going to give up before the results happen. And with Joe Burrow, more people are starting to feel the confidence that we can do this. We're going to get over this hump. And so the national media and the casual fan is not going to see that. So when you say breakout year, I can totally see it too. The things that would hold us back would be our head coach, our defensive coordinator, so coaching, and just another injury to Joe Burrow. That would devastate the team.
Now we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals here on the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rocco. We're here with Blaze. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the head coach. Now, Zach Taylor, he's only been there for a short amount of time, but we all know the NFL. We know that a coach can be there for a short time and they'll get axed. They'll move on to the next one. There's always a supply and demand of head coaches. So will it take a 500 season, above 500 season, for Zach Taylor to keep his job in Cincinnati?
Okay, so my standards would I want to see 8 or 9 wins, the
Okay.
floor. If I see 4 or 5 wins, pack your bags. With 8 or 9 wins and a good offensive performance, now we can talk about the defensive coordinator, and then we can give you another year. But it has to be 8 or 9 wins with a very good, productive offense. The offense is key to his job.
I'm glad you brought up 8 or 9 wins because here on the sports angle, I'm not doing the full predictions. Like I'm not doing every single team until it gets way closer. But I have said a couple of times this offseason, watch out for Cincinnati. If everything clicks properly, I think a 9-8 season is doable. I believe that the Cincinnati Bengals have enough talent, not just on the offensive side, but the defensive side as well. By the way, their defense very underrated. There's some players on that team that are impact players that no one pays attention to. So do you believe that a 9-8 season is realistic, which would be on the verge of a playoff spot considering there's 7 seeds now in the AFC?
Yeah, I think it's a realistic. Um, I don't think playoffs. I don't think we're quite there yet. But with Joe Burrow, I mean, my confidence is way higher than it would be if he wasn't there. And the fact that he's putting in the extra work and he definitely looks like he's going to be there week 1 without question. We're talking. He's talking about I want to play in preseason if they let me, which of course would be idiotic, and we're not going to do that. Um, but he's just got the fire in him. He's got the moxie that you want from your leader. And so 8 to 9 wins is very, very doable. And you talked about the defense. Defense, we have the pieces. I'm just worried about the scheme, how they're going to bring the scheme together. I don't believe in the defensive coordinator. When it came to Zach Taylor coaching the Bengals, one of the issues was he was the very last coach in 2019 to get hired because the Rams went to the Super Bowl. He didn't get into Cincinnati until February. So they gave him a shortened offseason. That draft we had that year was rushed, was not that productive. We got Jonah Williams, who's been hurt and is a good player. But besides that, we didn't really get much. And then the next year, he coached the Senior Bowl, which was great. But then the whole COVID outbreak, we had a great draft last year, but then it goes to no off season, no training camps. And so there's been issues. And I'm not going to make excuses for him. I want those 8 or 9 wins because the talent is there. But yeah, got to get it done. It's going to get done, I believe. 8 wins.
Now we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals here on Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rocco. We're here with Blaze. Now, name me a player on the Bengals organization. It could be offense, it could be defense, that a lot of people don't pay attention to, very underrated, under the radar, that has impressed you. It could have been based on their last year's performance. It could be based off of what you've heard this offseason, maybe during OTAs or doing something that's wowing the coaches, whatever that might be. Can you name me one Bengals player that fits that criteria?
Definitely. I mean, we all know about T. Higgins. I've mentioned T. Higgins about how he's coming into his own. He's getting faster, stronger. He put up almost 1,000 yards last year in his rookie season. So we know about T. Higgins. We know about Jamar Chase coming in, the connection with Burrow. We all know about that. But Tyler Boyd, I think a lot of people know about Tyler Boyd, and a lot of people might even call him our best receiving option.
Yeah,
but I
thanks,
think
fantasy football.
Yeah, he just doesn't get enough love because he's treated as an outcast now. It's like, how is he going to fit in? Well, he's a natural slot receiver. And what we needed was a deep threat, and we got that in Jamar Chase. And so I just think that the trio of receivers you have is going to actually benefit him and get him more receptions because the more focus is going to be on Higgins and the more focus is going to be on Chase. And so Tyler Boyd is going to get, I'd say, about 90 receptions this year.
What I like about Tyler Boyd is for anybody who follows the slot receiver position, I remember reading this last year and it was insane. He has been in the top 2 in terms of receiving yards at the slot receiver in 2019 and in 2020. That's how good he was with the Cincinnati Bengals. So 2021 could definitely be a real possibility. Personally, myself, I think Jonah Williams, this is a year that he's going to have to kind of show that A, he can stay healthy, and B, that he can protect Joe Burrow, he can protect their biggest asset.
Yes, definitely a make or break year for him. I think he's going to get it done. He's had injuries. The technique, what I was talking about, alluding to earlier, was our offensive coach. Jonah Williams was known as a technician at Alabama. Has very, very good technique. He's used it to overcome his shortcomings with his arm length and size. He's about, I think, like 6'4", 305, about average arms. But the technique that our offensive line coach was teaching was a two-hand punch. So essentially, you get in there and it puts a more of a power shock. But we have this offensive lineman, Willie Anderson, who's up for the Hall of Fame. He broke the top 25 candidates. He teaches, and a lot of people teach independent hands. So if you do the two-handed punch, if you get swam, your whole body and momentum is going the other direction. And so just teaching this bad technique and these bad schemes, I mean, you're taking a step backwards for a good player. So just that new scheme that we're bringing in, which is a scheme that we had, which led to success with Joe Mixon, because our offensive line coach is also a run game coordinator. With this offensive line coach, it was the year that Mixon had almost 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns 2 years ago. So I think Joe Mixon gets back to form. I'm just so excited for the offense this year.
Absolutely. It's going to be an exciting time to watch the Cincinnati Bengals. The draft, it was a month and a half ago. Obviously, we all know that they picked Jamar Chase. There was controversy around it. There are people that were panning the move, saying, you're idiots, you need to draft an offensive lineman. There was all of that situation. But now that it has been, 45 days since it happened, do you believe the Cincinnati Bengals made a good pick? And what would be the expectations for Jamar Chase in year one?
I think we made the right pick. I'm not even going to say the right pick. I think we made the right 2 picks, because the pick that gets crushed the most is the second-round pick of Jackson Carman. Left tackle from Clemson. Mm-hmm. But if you look back, I have videos 2 to 3, 4 weeks out before the draft saying, if I can have it my way, I want Jamar Chase in the first round and Jackson Carman in the second round. And when it happened,
got it.
I could not believe it. That was my first option. My second option was Penny Sewell and then Terrence Marshall. But the reason why I was leaning towards Chase over Sewell, first off, I didn't think the Bengals would be that bad last year. I couldn't believe we were in a position to draft either one of them. I wanted Sewell, but at the same time, it goes back to Jonah Williams. I believe in Jonah Williams, and I think Sewell's best fit for left tackle. We could have put him on the right side, but, I mean, it's just another piece. It improves our line, but it doesn't do that much. Jamar Chase was the missing piece, and the Bengals traditionally just have always had good receivers. Chad Johnson. After Chad left, we got A.J. Green. And we do best when we have a trio of receivers. When we had Chad, we had T.J. Houshmandzadeh and Chris Henry. When we had A.J. Green, he had the most success. We had Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu. So now we got our trio back. We got our young quarterback. We're getting our running back, and then we're getting the offensive line up to par.
Well, there you go. So we have about a minute left here in the segment. So, Blaze, what I want you to do is, if you have any social media, if you have any projects you're working on that you would want to shout out to the audience here on the Sports Angle, I'll let you do that now.
Awesome. You guys can find me easily. Anything. My first name is Blaze. My middle name is Thunders. You type in Blaze Thunder, you'll find me somewhere on YouTube, on Snapchat, Facebook, all that good stuff. We also do an AFC North show with Sam Sports. You can find that on my Facebook page. But, yep, I'm independent. I'm the average savage. You need me, call me.
And there you go. So this is the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rachiele. And Blaze, thank you for coming on the show. And we will be right back after this.
Awesome.
Welcome back to the Sports Angle, live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. I'm your host, Rachiele. Let's get back into it. Go to our website, thesportsangle.com. Check out all the content we have on there. We have released an article tonight about the NBA. I want you to go out and check out that article. Check out all the articles we have on thesportsangle.com. We also have audio, video, live streams. You name it, we have it on thesportsangle.com. Also, go to all our social media at The Sports Angle. Follow, like, share. We appreciate all the support. As well as go to our YouTube channel, The Sports Angle. We're going to be posting content more frequently on the YouTube channel. We're going to have uploads every single week. So, stay tuned for that. As well as go to our subreddit, The Sports Angle, and our Twitch live stream, which in July, we will be trying to post a stream every single day on our Twitch, The Sports Angle. Continuing with our NFL conversation, we had Blaze come on the show. Appreciate him coming on. We talked about the Aaron Rodgers situation. We talked about Cincinnati Bengals. And continuing with that theme, quarterbacks are a big deal. And quarterbacks can make or break your franchise. If you select a great quarterback, it will lead you to a decade and a half, 2 decades of success if their body holds up. If you select a terrible quarterback, it can hold you back 8 to 10 years, depending on how much damage that quarterback did to your franchise. However, there is a narrative. There is an ideology. There is a myth that a lot of analysts, a lot of insiders, some football fans believe that your host, Rachiele, wants to kill right now. There is this idea that non-Power 5 conference quarterbacks are a terrible idea to draft with a first-round pick. There is this idea that if you draft a non-Power 5 conference quarterback, that you have just wasted a first-round pick because he's unproven, because he has raw talent, because he has that ability to make mistakes, because, oh, he isn't from Alabama, he isn't from Clemson, he isn't from LSU, he isn't from Oklahoma. There's this idea that if you're not from the 7 universities that most casual fans know, then, oh, he's going to be a bust at the next level. We have heard the last 5 NFL drafts that, oh, because this quarterback didn't come from insert university, oh, he's going to be a bust just because he came from a smaller school. We heard it with Carson Wentz. We heard it with Josh Allen. We heard it with Zach Wilson this year. We've heard about it with Jordan Love last year. This idea is so much believed, but is it true? Does the evidence back up that statement? Do the facts back up what they've been saying about non-Power 5 conference quarterbacks? The answer is no. The answer is the facts do not back up that statement, and I'm going to give them to you live here on the Sports Angle. For starters, there have been multiple Super Bowl champions who have came from non-Power 5 schools. Trent Dilfer came from Fresno State, which at the time was at the WAC conference. Now it's with the Mountain West Conference, because around 2012, there was a merger between the WAC and the Mountain West. 5 of the schools, Boise State, Fresno State, Hawaii, San Jose State, and Wyoming, they all came over from the WAC conference to the Mountain West. Fresno State has actually been building a very solid quarterback tradition at Fresno State, but let's focus on Trent Dilfer for just a second. Yes, I understand there are going to be people who are going to roll their eyes right now and are going to say Trent Dilfer is one of the worst quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl. My argument is he did win a Super Bowl. He was the starting quarterback. He was the guy under center hiking the ball and making sure that the game was not taken over by the defense. Trent Dilfer was a game manager. Trent Dilfer was there to have about 15 pass attempts. He was the guy that they brought in. If you gave 140 passing yards, if you were 15 for 18, and if you gave the ball to Jamal Lewis, you trusted Jermaine Lewis to have all those kick returns for touchdowns, and you trusted the defense to only limit the other team to about 13, 14 points a game. That is what the Baltimore Ravens were. Trent Dilfer, regardless if you like it or not, he won a championship with the Baltimore Ravens. They can never take that away from him. He won a Super Bowl. What about Kurt Warner? Kurt Warner came from Iowa, but not the Power 5 school Iowa, not the Power 5 school Iowa State. No, he came from Northern Iowa, a very small school in the grand scheme of things. He had to scratch and claw and fight his way into a Super Bowl championship. He made it to a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. He is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Regardless of how much people want to argue he shouldn't be in there, he is still in the Hall of Fame. And he didn't come from a Power 5 school, now did he? So as we're talking about this narrative that a non-Power 5 conference quarterback can't be good, well, I'm gonna hear your rebuttal right now. I already know what your rebuttal is going to be. Yeah, those guys have won Super Bowls. But what about number 1 overall picks? What about top draft selections? I mean, there's no way that teams are going to spend a top draft pick on a non-Power 5 school, right? That's absurd. That's insane. It doesn't happen, right? Wrong again. In 2002, Fresno State had David Carr go number 1 overall to the expansion Houston Texans. There's going to be a bust category labeled next to him, and I've always seen that unfair. His offensive line was the worst in the NFL the first 4 years he was in the league. He couldn't get set properly to get the ball off. He had to run for his life on every single play. There wasn't a lot he could do. Even when you had a generational type wide receiver in Andre Johnson, you might notice that when you watch Texans games back from that era, he pretty much had 4 seconds to get the ball out of his hand, which didn't really give him any time to develop, read the assignments, read what's going to go down the field. He pretty much had to hike it and then just chuck it up and hope that somebody can get it. Because if he didn't and he actually waited patiently, boom, he was just going to get sacked over and over and over again. Ironically enough, the first 2 seasons of his career, he was among the highest rated quarterbacks in terms of sack rate in NFL history. If you go look it up, it's true. His 2 seasons that he was in Houston, 2002, 2003, were both in the top 5 for sack rate in NFL history. That's how bad the offensive line was. And he also has won a Super Bowl with the New York Giants. He was with the San Francisco 49ers as a veteran leader to Alex Smith when he was starting to get hot in the NFL. So David Carr did a lot in his career. So David Carr was a success who came from a non-Power 5 school in Fresno State. Alex Smith was drafted number 1 overall, came out of University of Utah, which at the time was a Mountain West Conference school, a non-Power 5 school. So Alex Smith had a solid 15-year career. Alex Smith, and that documentary they made about him overcoming that injury, making it back onto the field, is one of the most motivational documentaries you will watch. I recommend this to you. after you watch this show, go on to your DVR, go on to your favorite streaming service, find that documentary and watch it, because it will motivate you to run all the way into a brick wall and then don't stop. Maybe you'll find, a fake wall made of cardboard, made out of plastic, made out of drywall. Maybe you'll find one of those fake walls they use in wrestling, and you'll just jump straight through it and then, hey, ask your mom what's for dinner. That is what that documentary will do for you. It's motivational. It's heartfelt. I recommend you go watch it after this show ends. It is that good of a documentary. Alex Smith had a long career. He led the San Francisco 49ers to back-to-back NFC championship games, and he came from a non-Power 5 school. I also need to give one more example, because there is also this idea that a face of the franchise can't be drafted from a non-Power 5 school. There was this idea that if you want to get a franchise quarterback, you're not going to get one from the MAC conference. You're not going to get it from the Mountain West. You're not going to get it from Conference USA. You're not going to get it from the American, and you're not going to get it from the Sun Belt. Well, here's where this narrative should die with this statistic. 15 of the 32 starters in the NFL come from the non-Power 5 conferences. And there's going to be people out there who are going to want me to name every single quarterback, and I will do that for you just because it's a sports angle, and I want to give you every fact that you need. So here are the quarterbacks that came from non-Power 5 schools that you need to know about. Josh Allen came from Wyoming, the Mountain West. You have had Andy Dalton, who came from with the Chicago Bears, came from TCU, who was in the Mountain West at the time. That is a non-Power 5 school. You have, for example, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, hey, look, it's live, folks. Anything can happen. You also have Carson Wentz with the Indianapolis Colts. He came from North Dakota State. That is not a non-Power 5 school as well. You have had quarterbacks that have come from these non-Power 5 schools that have made impact in the NFL. I'll give you one of the most perfect examples of someone like that. And yes, he is listed as a starter on the depth chart, so I'm going to put him on here. Taysom Hill, the New Orleans Saints, came from BYU. Can we talk about BYU for a second? Zach Wilson is the number 2 overall pick, and he was criticized, slammed, hammered by the media because he came from BYU. He came from a small school. He came from, oh, look at BYU. They beat up on all the unnamed teams. Oh, they came up against South Alabama. They came up against West Texas. Oh, BYU went up against the worst of the worst in college football. Did people remember that BYU had 2 great quarterbacks back-to-back in the 80s? You had Steve Young and you had Jim McMahon. Both came from BYU, and they both won Super Bowls in the NFL. Zach Wilson was drafted number 2 for a reason. So the fact that media members and analysts and insiders are still trying to use this narrative of, oh, if you're from the non-Power 5, you are not going to be successful at the next level. I remember hearing that about Zach Wilson from the moment it was announced that he was going to go number 2 overall. Everyone was saying, why would you pick Wilson over Fields? Because Fields is from a Power 5 school and Wilson isn't. Why would you pick him over Mac Jones? Mac Jones comes from Alabama. You got to go with the guy who came from Alabama, right? It's similar to Carson Wentz. When Carson Wentz was going up against Jared Goff in 2016, one of the biggest deterrents to Carson Wentz was that he came from a non-Power 5 school. And once again, I think we've seen with hindsight, Jared Goff made to a Super Bowl appearance, but Carson Wentz has a Super Bowl ring in his collection. Carson Wentz has done some good stuff in the NFL. So this narrative, I feel like, should die. And I stopped at BYU because of the fact that Zach Wilson, who's also on that list of starting quarterbacks, by the way, he has been put in the same category as all these quarterbacks simply because he doesn't come from a Power 5 school. It is ridiculous how this argument keeps getting brought up. So I brought up Zach Wilson, I brought up Taysom Hill, Carson Wentz, Andy Dalton. I brought up Josh Allen. But what about Ben Roethlisberger? Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger came from Miami, Ohio, which is in the MAC conference. Multiple Super Bowls, has made it to at least 5 AFC championship games, and will be in the Hall of Fame once his career is over in 2021. You're going to get emotional, Steelers fans, when you're seeing that banner being raised as his jersey gets retired by the Pittsburgh Steelers in about 5 years. So Ben Roethlisberger's on that list. And we keep on going. What about Jimmy Garoppolo? And heck, even if Trey Lance is starting quarterback, he counts as well because he came from North Dakota State. Jimmy Garoppolo came from Northern Illinois. Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance have both came from non-Power 5 schools. Jimmy Garoppolo made to the Super Bowl. He has a 24-8 winning record as an NFL quarterback. Trey Lance is the future in San Francisco, and they trust him so much. They drafted him over the Power 5 quarterbacks in Justin Fields and Mac Jones. Understand that I'm not sitting here and I'm not telling you that it is an absolute 100% guarantee that every single non-Power 5 quarterback is going to be successful. There is no absolute in the NFL. There's no absolute in life. What I'm pointing out to you is that when it comes to the NFL, I want this narrative to die. I want this narrative that if you come from a non-Power 5 school, if you come from the American, if you come from the MAC conference, you come from Conference USA, you come from the Mountain West, and you come from the Sun Belt, if you're a Division II school, you have this narrative attached to your back that you are not going to be successful at the next level simply because of where you played in college football. Analysts still do it. There are insiders who get paid millions of dollars to be on air, and they still use this argument like it has merit. So I want to point out to all of you, and I want all of you to help me out with this. I want this narrative to die in the NFL. I want the NFL draft to stop using this narrative that if you come from the non-Power 5 conference, you are going to not develop as well as a Power 5 conference quarterback does at the next level, because the facts don't back that up. Super Bowl champions have came from the non-Power 5. You have had Hall of Famers come from the non-Power 5. You have had faces of the franchise come from the non-Power 5, and you have even had #1 overall picks come from the non-Power 5. So I want this narrative to die. I need your help to do it. Spread the word. Tell everybody you know, because this narrative is not true, and the analysts and insiders on your television screen and on your favorite streaming service will keep trying to force this narrative down your eye sockets. So we're going to be right back here on the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rocco Rachiele. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Sports Angle, live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. I'm your host, Rachiele. Let's get back into it. We have about 5 minutes left here on the show. So to do our quick 5-minute roundup, I want to get into the NHL. Tonight, we have the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Colorado Avalanche in Game 6 at the T-Mobile Arena. Now, I'm going to give my prediction. I'm going to make this sweet. I'm going to make this short. And I will say on the record, I have the Vegas Golden Knights beating the Colorado Avalanche. I have them winning this game and moving on to the Final Four. I have the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Montreal Canadiens in the Final Four. And I believe that this will be one of the best games in the series. I believe that they will be able to go up against Colorado and they will have the advantage on their side. Now, what do I think the score will be? I will make my prediction right now. The Vegas Golden Knights will beat the Colorado Avalanche 4-2. That is my prediction. 4-2. The Vegas Golden Knights will beat the Colorado Avalanche at home at the Fortress in front of 18,000 fans for the Vegas Golden Knights on their feet, shouting and celebrating and having a good time, being back to normal, at least our version of normal, as close as we can. I believe that Montreal and Vegas will be a great series to watch. I believe the Vegas Golden Knights, Montreal Canadiens, if it does happen, if they do close it out tonight, which I believe will be the case, Marc-Andre Fleury, Carey Price, you're going to see a battle of two dynamic goaltenders. The Vegas Golden Knights are going to have Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Tomas Tatar, Paul Byron. There is so much offensive talent in Montreal. That is how they swept the Winnipeg Jets, beating them offensively, and Carey Price taking care of the defensive side of Montreal. Now, would I predict this series right now? No, it's way too soon, way too early. We got to let this series end first before we get into Montreal, before we get into Vegas. I will make a calculated opinion, and I will say that the Vegas Golden Knights, according to odds makers, according to the odds here in Las Vegas in terms of the future, the Vegas Golden Knights are tied with the Tampa Bay Lightning with the best odds of winning the Stanley Cup Final. And my angle is going to be that the Tampa Bay Lightning will face off against the Colorado Avalanche. Nah, I'm just messing with you. I'm saying the Tampa Bay Lightning will face off against the Vegas Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Finals. I have the defending champion coming back home, defending their crown at the Amalie Arena, and I have the Vegas Golden Knights for second time in 4 years going to T-Mobile Arena and playing in the Stanley Cup Finals. First time was with Washington. Second time will be with Tampa Bay. I love it. But I want to know your prediction. I want you to go down to that chat right there, and I want you to tell me what prediction do you have for the Stanley Cup Final. I want to know from everyone watching on YouTube, on Facebook Live, the people who are on Twitter, use the hashtag Sports Angle to engage in the conversation. Go to our subreddit, the Sports Angle, and when we start uploading on Twitch, then we will have that chat live as well. So give us your prediction down below and let me know who you have in the Stanley Cup Final. I have Tampa Bay. I have Vegas in the finals. It is going to be a great series in the Stanley Cup Final. This is the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rachiele. We are live Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Go to our website, thesportsangle.com. Check out all the content we have on there. Just wrote an article that was released tonight. So go check out that article and every article we have released on the website as well. Our social media, follow, like, share, all the content we have. We appreciate the support. I'm your host, Rocco Rachiele. Follow me on social media at Rocco Rachiele. And until next time, rock on, and we will see you later.